Guess we're ready to go. Good. Sorry about late.
First day.
Good morning. Good night.
We're starting to
How are you?
record. Start where you're starting to.
Okay. We'll just go ahead and call the meeting to order. And first order of business is to announce the next business or the business meeting proposed for April 9th. And then the next hearing in this room at 8:30 a.m. on April 23rd. With that, could we swear in the staff? All those who wish to testify today from the staff, please raise your right hands. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. And let's see, board roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Whitman,
Here.
Mr. Loverfitch.
Here.
Ms. Maniaci. Here. Mr. Slanik should be coming. Ms. Bartley. Here. Mr. Beatty.
Here.
And Ms. Rittler will be absent today. We have
Okay,
a quorum.
great. Thank you very much. Would you please review the hearing format for us?
Yes, so city staff will present the staff report and application materials. The applicant will sit at the presenter table, be sworn in, and asked to present their materials. And registered speakers will approach the podium, be sworn in, and provided 3 minutes each to speak. And then commissioners will discuss the case and ask any questions.
Okay, very good. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting,
So
please?
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? So the motion is on the table. Are there any questions, comments, additions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. Before we go on to the first case, I just want to say thank you to everybody. There was a little issue involving quorum, so I appreciate the flexibility of everybody, applicants and staff and everybody to get this thing to work through. This particular time of the year, that issue comes up every once in a while. So at any rate, with that, let's move on to the first case, please.
Yes, so this is for 20 South 3rd Street for an exterior patio and landscaping. 20 South 3rd Street is known as the Galleria Building, which is located at the corner of South 3rd Street and East Capitol Street, just east of the state capitol, and is connected via a skywalk to the PNC building at 155 East Broad Street. The approved elevated park walk is drawn into the meeting materials for context, but it is not included in this application scope of work. The applicant is seeking commission approval for exterior building modifications to construct outdoor patio space and landscaping for 2 planned restaurant tenants. The applicant was last before the commission at the February 2024 meeting, where they generally supported the concept, but noted that the northern patio structure appeared large, dark, and with a heavy cornice. The commission recommended for the northern patio to respect the church next door, lighten up the cornice, and push the entry of the northern patio back towards the existing building to allow for stronger sight lines to the elevated park. Commissioners also recommended to see physical samples of the decorative screening. The applicant addressed the commission comments with the following changes: minimize the top half of the patio's decorative screening, updated the patio structure paint color from tricorn black to a dark gray color, which is called iron ore, added an image of the arch that is to be integrated into the screen, brought a full-size physical sample of the patio and screening pattern, hopefully they have that here today, and then submitted materials include site photos, site plans, renderings, roof plan, elevation, sections, material details, and landscape plans. And I'm going to just quickly flip to the rendering. We've seen a lot of these images already. They've just been slightly updated. So this you can see here, this is a little bit slimmer of a profile. And then they did update the paint color of all this black to that dark gray. So those are some of the changes that were made. And then they still kept the same proportions in terms of it projecting outward, but they did slim down the profile a bit. And then after review, the downtown design guidelines state that downtown's built environment will be energized with additions to existing structures. They encourage landscaping and recommend that outdoor spaces complement indoor uses and that materials be of high quality and compatible with the primary structure's architectural character, materials, and color. And as such, the proposal is consistent with the recommendations of the downtown design guidelines. Thank you.
Very good. Could the applicants come up and join us, please? Morning.
Morning.
Identify yourselves for the record, please.
Brent LeCount, Design Collective. Tom Morano, The Edwards Companies.
If you raise your right hands, you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If so, say, I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. You were here obviously very recently. It looks like you've done a couple of tweaks on this thing. Maybe if we could just focus on those, I think that's a good way to move forward, and let's see where we go from here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. As Belka so eloquently stated, we reduced the cornice piece. I think there were some comments that it was a little heavy, so we reduced that in size and scale. One of the comments, there was a lot of discussion about the pattern of the screen, so we brought a full-size mock-up, not in the exact color, but in the at least the similar, full size of the pattern, so you can see the transparency. We put an image in the packet of the arches. We can't bring one of those. Those are quite heavy and they're cast iron, but I know there was some discussion about what those are. So that's the arch and how it would fit in there. And then overall and then change the finish from a dark black to more something that was more consistent with the building color, which is this dark.
Because the building color is black though, isn't it?
It was originally black, but over the years, it's faded.
So that is faded black. We are proposing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fading list.
Okay. And then the idea is the screen would be painted the same color as the.
The whole structure would be that
Yeah.
same.
Okay. And then,
the screen?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
yeah, that'd be great. Okay. Fine. And then,
Yeah,
The,
again, this isn't the exact material per se, something we had on hand in our shop at.
and the entry to the building then is the same as you were showing us last week, which is
Correct.
supposed to match the Broad Street.
Correct.
Yeah.
The canopy, but it's not real big.
And this is metal, huh? Well, this,
Well, that's
Yeah, but
ACM.
it will be metal.
Yeah, will be
Okay.
metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, a big part of it is that when you're inside, you have Third Street and cars just whizzing, so
get some,
we want to get some transparency.
Absolutely.
I think that's great, but if it's too much transparency, then I don't think you're getting enough protection from the cars whizzing by on Third, so.
okay.
And just for clarification, I know there's some discussion about this last meeting. This is just a screen wall. There's no roof, or it's not a building addition or anything like that. It's just essentially a railing.
You'll be back with a roof next.
No, I don't think so.
Well, they've got a roof section over there on the south side.
Yes, correct. The elevator
Yeah.
parkway essentially acts as a roof for that.
Which I think would be an interesting
Just to
space.
be your
too. And I
garden,
love
yeah.
the idea that you can have canvases and so on that can be removed and so on for the weather.
Exactly.
Are there any questions? Let's just move into that and see where everybody kind of is. Bob Trudy, okay.
I'm really pleased that you listened to us last month and came back with pretty much what we asked for.
Great.
Are there any comments or questions from the audience, please? From anybody have anything to say? I personally like it. I think it's exciting. I think it's interesting. You've still got the building, where it's the existing building that's in the back, so it's not like,
Right.
We're starting from scratch. The walkway is going to be interesting. I think these will be fun personally, just giving thoughts. Where do we go from here? Anybody want to say anything, do anything?
Well, I had a couple of.
Sure, please.
I too really appreciate you, thinking about the suggestions we made and incorporating them, and I think it looks very well. And I just had a couple of suggestions that you might want to think about. Because you have the plaza that is, potentially such an engaging, activated space. Maybe that southwest corner of the patio that you're creating, maybe, study, do you want that planter, that amount of bulk right at that corner? Or would you want to open it a little bit more with the seat, you know, this is the way you have the seating pattern, maybe it's extended a little more, but maybe just study it and see what you think works better and what your design goals are.
Good.
And then I also noticed when you were showing us the image of the cast iron arch, it looked like it was a interesting color, like it looked, of course, like it was the same color as the screen, but it looked like you can see here, it looks like maybe it's supposed to look rusted or.
It just is currently
It's
rusted.
currently red.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
so it'll be
That's the
painted.
current condition. right?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I see.
That'll get sandblasted.
Okay,
Right.
I was gonna say, I didn't know if you were aiming for the exact same color or if you wanted it to just be slight variation to make it stand.
We envision it that would get painted consistent with everything else, so that way,
Texture, not a feature.
exactly.
Well, it's gonna stand out just by
Yeah.
what it is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Other comments? Autumn?
No comments.
Trudy? Comments?
I move
Made your
approval.
comment. There is a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second?
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Too easy for you.
Fantastic, thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
appreciate it. Okay. Malkus, are we ready? Next case?
So this next application is for 340 East Fulton Street, which is located at the corner of East Fulton Street and South Grant Avenue, just north of I-70. In May 2023, the applicant received approval with conditions for a proposal to demolish the existing office building and construct a new 5-story, 68-unit residential building. The COA cannot be issued until the following conditions are met. And just a reminder of what the conditions were. So tying the demolition to the construction, which we've done, study window H for how many windows you'll have there. This has been met because they show all windows on all elevations now. Study the street trees, which have been done. Return with the landscaping and public art, which they're doing today. And then construction drawings must be submitted for a COA before demolition can be issued, and that's standard process. So as of now, all these conditions are being met. Today, the applicant is seeking commission approval for the proposed updates to the approved building. All work has a B suffix on the drawing sheets, and the updates include reduced parking from 58 spaces to 33 spaces, included 6 ground floor units, increasing the total unit count from 68 to 74, reduced the curb cut along Grant, removed the overhang at the corner of Fulton and Grant, removed the horizontal metal siding from the elevations, updated the layout of the brick and siding panels, added in cement board siding, flat panels with reveals, added a ground face block at the base of some of the brick, modified the window configuration, relocated the art murals to the north and west, and changed exterior paint colors. No changes have been made to the building height, massing, or site coverage, and submitted materials include a project description, site photos, site plan, floor plans, renderings, material details, and final site compliance plan. And just to quickly, I'll just, you can see here, the curb cut was reduced a little bit. You can see now these 6 units included that weren't here previously, so that increased the unit count. And then I want to get to the renderings quickly. So you can see here, the art was moved to that side. And then you can just generally see the change in building materiality, all the windows, the reconfigurations of just the fenestration and materials essentially. And then after review, the downtown design guidelines recommend unique design expression with first floor transparency, high quality materials, and lighting that minimizes light spill. The incorporation of ground floor uses with parking garages is also encouraged. The proposed design updates are generally consistent with the downtown design guidelines. Staff does note the high amount of cement composite siding on the structure and no traditional masonry materials as recommended by the guidelines. Thank you.
This project was approved,
Yes. May of last year.
but it seems like it's coming back as almost a new project with somebody changing it.
I would argue that it's the same project. It's just the materials have changed. Fenestration has changed, but the height is the same, the massing is the same. This is sort of akin to a project that we saw last month that had similar design changes. It's the same project, just updating materials and the way the materials are put together.
Morning. Could you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Yes, David Blair with Shrimp Shock Architects. And Joseph Wickham with Fairfield Homes.
Could you raise your right hands? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of changes on here that jump out. I think it'd be worth walking through those if you would, kind of specifically, and obviously, you know, we're primarily interested in the elevations. Obviously, the site plays into it, but if you would do that, I think that's a good way to proceed.
Yeah, I'll start with, why we came back. Essentially, the structural system changed for the building.
I'm sorry, I did not
I'm sorry, essentially the structural system changed for the building. So this was prior a podium building. So we had precast podium at the first floor, and we're doing a 4/1. Now,
Could you speak into the speaker a little bit? I'm sorry to.
No, that's
say, but I just want to make sure.
I'll move it over this way.
Everybody can hear everybody.
So we're primarily we call 4/1 podium structure with wood construction over top of over a non-combustible. It was a precast concrete podium. That changed. Essentially, it's going through a value engineering process. So now it's going to be 5 stories of wood construction. They're coming all the way down fire retardant wood. In that process, essentially the bearing portion of the walls are extending down to the grade in most cases. So that's really what you see as the primary difference along the lower level. What was kind of a slightly setback element on the corners is now out at the perimeter to carry those loads down. So you see that. So that's where we had that canopy before and that inset, that has since changed. That's really where it's affected first or primarily. The other, obviously, to the left side of that, where there are 6 new units on the grade level. Grade level before in that area opened up into parking in the back. Had some windows, had some faux window elements, but now it is actual apartments. So we'll generate more revenue through apartments and also had changed the structure for value engineering. So that's why you're really seeing us back here, to express those elements.
I'm sorry, let me ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
Financing change on this deal, and that drove some of the difference in what you needed to do the design, because I saw something in the cover letter of the presentation here that I don't recall from what we saw last year.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I think,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, thank you for the question. So this still remains an Ohio Housing Finance Agency tax credit award project. We're still providing 55 units of affordable housing alongside 19 market rate units. We're actually providing a deeper skew rent AMI restriction down to 30% in partnership with the Community Shelter Board here in Columbus. Yes, we basically, when we had our initial design concept, it was a different time with lower construction costs, lower interest rates. And so we've had to go through a number of value engineering processes at this time. We explored all different financing options with the City of Columbus, with the county treasurer and everybody. And this is basically our last push to basically get this building built and provide the affordable housing in the correct design.
Thank you.
Let me walk through a couple of the other just changes that are impacted by that too. Obviously, with the additional residences on the first level, we've eliminated some of the parking, so we're now down to 33 parking spaces on site, all still behind the building. If you remember, there were 2 access points, one off Grant and one off Fulton. Those still remain exactly where they were at. No real essential change, so we're not moving those, and they're still kind of setting the buildings where it's at to maintain those 2 existing access. One is actually access off Fulton and will exit on the Grant but so it's a one-way access point. So those have been maintained. We have building height still the same. The floors really from 2 up have next to no changes. But we're bringing the loading for those floors down to the first floor, which is why the primary changes on the first floor occur. We do, in this case, have addressed The art wall, we do have one now on the north wall that's available more at, that can be utilized, from the, down Grant. And then we're showing one on the other side that could be, we would, dedicate at a higher level, a little bit further back, but that could be, utilized also, as sees fit.
Just to clarify, this is going to be art and not, ad murals, right?
Correct, yeah. Correct.
How will they be applied? Will it be, adhered on like some type of, adherent, or will it be actually painted?
We have, it hasn't been
Hasn't been decided.
curated yet.
So what's the material there if you don't have the art?
The material there was brick on the one side and the other is the brick on the opposite side.
Yeah.
And then on this side, it's the lap.
What are we seeing here? Is
It's
that-
lap siding on that side.
What is that, the south side?
That's the west side.
West side, okay.
West side.
Is the idea that whatever is selected, whatever is produced there would be long-term? So it would be, in other words, it would be some type of, art, some type of, artistic design. And would the idea be that's going to be long-term, or is the idea that that's changed out over time?
But the idea would be that we don't have a partnership in place first off, so that still needs to be worked through. But the idea would be that it's long-term, so long as it's still in good shape. Then when it's no longer in good shape, then we'd go through the new process of new art design.
Could you just, is there change in the fenestration, and is there change in the building materials?
Yeah, you have to walk through that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so generally what you have seen is, yeah,
Pass that around.
there is a board there that we pass around.
Oh, you see it. Oh, it's over there.
Can't see it.
The brick that's on the board, there's one brick at this point, that's the brick that actually was here last
And
time.
what we're seeing there is the
What
orange,
you're seeing
reddish.
is the orange red,
That's
right.
brick.
We've modified a little bit. Obviously, it wasn't on the corner coming down to the ground, so now we brought it down to the ground, the corner to kind of solidify the corner of the building. On the other areas, we've really kind of just modernized it more. It was a little more of kind of more of a historical factory look in that area, because this was the old factory area. Now we've really just kind of taken those same massing and just really kind of modernized them as a kind of a picture frame of what would have been there. So they're less detailed at this point than we had shown before.
What less
Previously.
detailed?
The brick itself, the ins and outs of brick, soldiers, row locks, elements like that are less. You can see there was more cornice material at the top, kind of a little more of a historical emulation. Now we've really stripped it back to the kind of the picture frame of here's where a brick element was, and then inserted kind of into that. There's a vertical rib, it's a standing seam type siding, galvanized.
And is all the siding material the same, but just different colors? Could you,
we've gone
do you have a detail of what the?
Yeah, I've gone to a vertical
Siding.
rib siding. I think there might be a detail.
Vertical wood siding?
Vertical ribbed metal.
Ribbed,
siding.
okay.
Yes.
For the gray?
So the gray, the tan.
Before it was
blue,
black
all
there was a lot
vertical
more black in that siding.
ribbed.
So when you saw it on the corner, we've gone to it being a weathered zinc.
A which?
Weathered zinc is the color.
Okay.
The lighter appeal, really accenting the kind of the entry points with the blue color that you see. We had some blue before, had some accent points. They were a little more spotty. Now we've really used those since we're bringing things down to ground to identify those as entry points, one for car, one of the others for the primary end of the building. Highlighted those with deeper colors with the black, the canopy at the top, canopy over the entry, eyebrow at the top, and those kind of appear then a little more whimsically on the back side of the building.
When I look at this, I'm concerned that your mass of material is going to be the metal ribbed siding. And I think we, I mean.
Let me clarify. The mass of the material was still the lap siding, just so you know.
Where's the lab?
The higher, yeah, the gray, the darker gray,
Yeah,
and the more, I'll call it more tan look, that's a lap siding we have.
horizontal lap siding.
Yes.
Okay, so the idea is that you're breaking up, you've got horizontal siding and vertical siding.
Yes.
I still am concerned that we may end up with a building that does not have enough masonry on it, and I think that's something we have tried to get in downtown and have, and I think, you know, when you get into this thing here, I just think it would look better, and I think it would look more substantial with more brick on it. And I see that you've taken the brick out. And I'm gonna guess that has something to do with trying to save some money. But I think you give something up. I think you don't want to look at this and have the whole, the view be metal siding, whether it's horizontal or vertical.
It's,
But-
The horizontal side is not metal, it's
it's a cement.
like hardy board is.
Well, okay, whatever it is, just.
So what's the
Opposed to a
grade,
masonry.
the base on the, along this?
That's the ground face. The ground face block you can see down there.
Where is this?
Okay.
Oh, I see along the bottom.
Along the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah,
I had a comment that's very similar to what Steve was saying. When I looked at it too, I especially felt on the south facade that, which is a very long facade, that I appreciate what you were saying, that you're using the brick now almost like a frame. But I think on the south facade, because of the length, I thought that maybe the brick, and I think, do we have a good elevation of just the south? I thought that the brick, let's say the brick right on that corner, right to the right there, that maybe the brick could be extended there from the corner out. And again, give it more of a sense of being grounded and more substantial. And I don't know how much that would add to the cost. I'm not saying to, put more masonry everywhere, but maybe in some crucial areas where it's really going.
yeah, there's certainly an option that corner could be
Yeah.
dealt with similarly to the.
Got right where the cursor is, and then move.
Or yes,
Yeah.
or kind of integrate kind of the picture frame I have to the left of what I'll say the auto entry, somewhat to the right also.
Yeah, I think that would go a long way and then still be cost effective. And then I'm not sure too, I think it might be interesting to study, that transition from the masonry to your cement vertical siding. And I'm assuming it's not exactly flush, that maybe there's a little bit of an offset. That, maybe creating a little depth and bringing that brick out slightly.
Like not the big cornice necessarily, but still something that is,
Or just like that
It's
whole
there.
line a little bit out, might just give it more of a sense of, these transitions in materials are really, they're really deliberate.
Yeah,
That
providing
this is-
volume is tricky in the process, but yes, I know what you're saying.
If it's, even if it's a little bit,
Yeah.
I think it would also do a lot to give it more of a sense of, like sculptural and saying, this is a very deliberate intention that we're using these different materials and we're creating this type of, I guess, just the position between the two. If that's easy to do, and I don't even know, maybe you're already doing that. So it's just a thought.
I think the goals of this project are admirable, and I understand the cost is absolutely ridiculous these days, so trying to predict it even, and interest rates, but you've lost an awful lot of character in this transition, and I think these kind of tweaks that we're talking about could bring back some of that, and I don't think we can, or would ask you to get all of it, to understand why you've done it. But it's just so, it's very busy and it's lacking some sort of cohesive design thing. That's a real technical word, I want you to know. But by losing the cornice and by losing the brick and all that, we've lost something. Any of that you could bring back, even if it's an illusion. Maybe the top two layers of brick are black or something, bring back the contrast.
and step out even by a half an inch.
Yeah.
3/4 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get back to the financing piece, particularly since you're using OVA. And I don't want, we have such a deficit in affordability as far as housing, and particularly in the downtown area where you have a lot of services and individuals need to have the opportunity to have access and easy access to live and work in the same area. So I understand what you're saying from an architectural and aesthetic standpoint, but I don't want us to lose the balance as far as what the need is regarding affordability, particularly since that is a priority of this particular administration.
It's good.
Great.
Okay, I think the whole idea would
One
be,
second, Douglas, could you go back to your, I guess the third page? And
Of the
where you have
packet?
the packet where you have the, picture of the, National Church Residences building across the street, there.
Here?
Yep, okay, thank you. I just wanted to see, revisit, I know it's a much older building, but just wanted to see the materials on that. and contrast it.
I think from my standpoint, I think what would be worth looking at is, can you take, you've got some of these panels where you've carved out the brick. There's not a hell of a lot of square footage in there. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you might be able to look at, where you can change this thing pretty substantially.
Yeah, we definitely, when we stripped it out, I stripped it down.
I understand.
So like, when you're stripping it out, do you go all the way and just make it a modern brick frame, which is, and that's why we're here, get your reaction to it. Yeah.
But I think this is also, very frankly, it's downtown. And so maybe that's something good to have, let us say, some high quality in a way that maybe you wouldn't do it if you were in other areas. And I'm not trying to demean anything by that comment, but if we can figure out a way to kind of get a good, high quality product down here, that's a good long-term thing for us too. So.
I'm just concerned about all the cement board down low in downtown, and just for the building's long-term liability. And anything you can do to help that, I think is gonna help you in the long run.
I do too.
So if I may, I'm hearing a little bit more detail in the masonry, but also potentially first floor coverage as much as possible. But primarily focused on the south and east facades of the building. The back facades aren't as concerning to the commission.
Yeah, by the way, the other thing too, you had more, the windows were kind of a little more energetic than they are here. It looks like you brought, they are different there. It's a 2 light over 3 versus a 2, or whatever it is. But you had more, you had better, right on the corner there, for example, take a look at that corner and then flip back to what we have approved, which is that corner.
It's more of an industrial one.
Well, it's frankly, I think it's more interesting too, even if it's right on the first floor. And again, if you could figure out a way to kind of, and, get your deal done, but don't, let's say you strip it down to the bare minimum, if you can come back a little bit. And I understand there could be a cost consequence, but a lot of times you can do A, you can do B, and B's better, and there isn't that much cost difference, if at all. So at any rate, I would urge you to kind of think about, is this are they asking for approval today, or is this conceptual?
They're asking for approval of the.
The
design
changes. Yeah, okay.
And if I may speak to that, Chairman, as we described here with our financing structure, we've exhausted all resources, and we've gone through about 2 years cycle here of trying to identify resources.
I'm sorry, could you speak up? I am sorry, having a hard time here. Thanks.
Yeah, so we basically have gone through a 2-year process here, looking for additional financing resources to get the original design built, design that we all fell in love with when we first, designed this project. And we just have not found any additional resources. So the other measure was to take this redesign approach. And the only thing I'll say to the approval request and the timing is we are now under immense pressure from our investors to close this thing by June here. So that's the reason that we're coming to the commission for approval rights today. That's the pressure that we're under. Can we make tweaks here and there to try to accommodate some of the masonry and some of the detail? Yes. But we do need to advance this as quickly as possible.
Well, I think if you could commit to, I speak for myself, I'm not, we're gonna ask in a minute, we're gonna ask what the commission wants to do here. But to move it forward, if you could work with us on a couple of these things, I wouldn't be surprised if you couldn't walk out of here with an approval today, if you want.
No, I mean,
And then we can come back and we'll just make sure that what we talk about kind of comes to pass a little bit.
yeah, no, we're certainly.
So I guess where could you be? You've heard some comments. And I think what you're hearing, the underlying comment is that we're on your side. We want to see this thing happen. But boy, we think it could be a lot better if there were a couple little tweaks here and there. So
I had another comment, and it's maybe more of a question. So Bob mentioned something interesting. He said there's really not a, I guess like a cohesiveness to this. And do you feel, I know you've created with the new metal panel or the new metal siding, and you've created those, that new material as the inset. Is that something, I mean, without changing the material, I'm just wondering if you're happy with the color and feel that's, what you want to do? Or I'm wondering if that material for no extra cost comes in other colors that might be closer to the brick color, or it sort of look maybe rust, the kind of, I don't know.
No, Jane, I think the colors look better in person than they do in that rendering.
Oh, okay, so there's.
I had the same reaction to the
Oh,
rendering.
so you're saying to just, that's
It's
a little
deeper
darker.
than you, yeah,
It's a little warmer.
Okay, that's good,
It's a
because I was
deeper
saying
color
if it
than
came
you-
in another color, you
Yeah.
might, like we were talking about, keeping the cost down, but maybe creating certain illusions or creating a feeling of cohesiveness or richness or character. And maybe with that same material, for no extra cost, you can explore, can you get something that has a little more character, a little more richness, that treats that block as more of, would be more monolithic color perhaps, but it's a different texture, a different material, and then brings you back to that original concept that you had, but of course, being very, respectful of what you're doing and the cost that you must bring it in on. So it's just a thought, but if the color is darker and you're happy with it, that's fine.
Yeah, it is a little bit darker than what you see there,
Okay,
definitely.
then that's
I had wrestled, yes, maybe keeping it black, going to a rid though, kind of, when you start to go to that, you start to lose some of what you get as the shadowing effect ultimately on the building when you just go to black. So it looks richer in the other rendering. There's other things that make it look richer too in the black than that side, but that's probably just a bit of a
So which is is it the upper left-hand
poor
corner?
representation of what it should be. It's gonna be this color.
That color, okay. Okay. How do you react to being willing to do some changes on this?
Yeah, fine. No, I'm
Does that work?
happy to hear what you said. It's not surprised me. It was a kind of balance we were looking at. So that's fine. Feedback we wanted. I think certainly we can pull up the lap side and get a little more brick at the base, detail that brick, maybe not to where we were, but provide a little more of a, typical traditional brick detailing into what we're doing there. Maybe we take that corner there we're talking about, make it kind of that solid brick too with a little detailing, and I think we get to where we want to do. We'll look at that color a little bit too. We'll look at the the window buttons in the windows and weigh those. And
Yeah, I think for the massive on there, if that were maybe even a little darker on there, I think it might be.
I think that's a little
It would
bit.
add that kind of weight
But yeah.
to that section there, because
But it's quite a bit dark.
I understand, yeah, but I'm saying it might want to be even a little darker, just. So where do we go? What's the pleasure
We
of the
get
group?
an approval, and we need to figure out a
Yeah.
motion that gets it moved.
Yeah, okay, yes, right. So do you want to take a shot at that?
This is staff, who gives you an approval of very specific conditions. So
Yeah.
include the brick on X elevation, things like that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll move approval with the condition that we see more brick for masonry along the pedestrian level of the building on the two streets that have streets.
Like the south and the east.
Long Grant Full.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And what else?
Well, we had talked, well, we talked about maybe adjusting the color on the panels there to so that the elevations match the material, I guess. I don't know, but
And if you want more traditional brick detailing into the,
Oh, I guess, yeah,
Masonry.
adding in some brick detailing to give the masonry a better sense of
the
detail.
caps of the masonry sections
Yeah.
there. Yeah, and then do we want to talk about the color, or is everybody else set on the color of the panels?
I think the color of the sample is acceptable as the color of the rendering.
at least the depth of the color of the sample or.
Or darker, yeah.
Okay, any other tweaks on, that's it? Well, that's pretty straightforward. So let's just, so that we understand what we're talking about. If I'm looking at this elevation here, there's two panels left. Might become solid brick on the first floor. Bob, you want to point to those things?
So we're gonna see more masonry here,
Right.
here,
Mhm.
here, so that we don't have the particle board coming all the way down to where people can hit it.
And then how about those panels on the left there too?
Okay.
And then how about filling in the panels on the left? Was that part of it or not? Two,
Here.
there and around the corner. There.
With what?
Right.
We're talking about treating that, we'll explore treating that similar to the corner at Grand Full.
Okay, so this will be
Right,
more like,
so you get a
yeah,
heavier
yeah.
Yes.
corner anchored and then.
I think,
Little lighter
I think
middle.
you're, I think those are not gonna be vast dollar amounts. And I think it's gonna be a big improvement. I think you're gonna spend $10, you get a $20 improvement.
And I would also, like you said, you're looking at that metal panel color again,
Yeah.
metal panel color again. And then, you're with that darker gray, but you might even just want to, before you commit, explore something in that same depth, but maybe a slightly different hue and see how that looks, and compare and see if that gives it a more cohesive corner, and just. see
Okay, but
what you think.
we're trying to have a specific requirement.
Oh, okay, well, maybe just say that, that depth, what would you say, that depth of color or similar?
Or darker.
Which he already has.
That's what I'm saying.
He already
Okay,
said.
then that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
So what did we say?
So I have, 3 conditions: more brick or masonry on the Grant and Fulton elevations. Move the, I can't read my note. Oh, more brick detailing on the caps of the sections of masonry. And then to have the depth of color provided on the sample or deep.
Okay, now let's talk about what the more brick is specifically, just so everybody's on the same page, because we're gonna vote on this in a second here.
Well, I like what they're doing because you're using the brick on the base, which is a good, you're using it when you really need to for function. And I think that's, if you have you're trying to keep it budget conscious, I think that's a good use of it.
Okay, well, Bob, point to what we're talking about here then, and then so that you folks are.
Talking about here. Talking about here. 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 Here.
And how about the panels that are open then?
So you're just
Yeah.
creating a base
Yeah,
with the
writing
brick,
a brick base.
a brick base.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, does that,
First floor brick base.
if we say yes on that here momentarily, does that work for you folks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, did we get a second on this convoluted motion?
No, I made the.
I don't think we did. But somebody second this? Okay, now we're official. It's on the table.
I have
On the
one
floor.
question.
Yes.
about the Motion, are these conditions for staff to review and ensure that they've been done? Or do they need to come back for you all to ensure these? conditions?
I think that's a good question.
I
What-
think I feel for staff.
I will say, I feel incredibly confident with these conditions being so clear.
Yeah.
I can review them.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah,
you know.
I would ask if you can get these and we get an elevation sheet from you, could you pass it on so we can see?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll take a look at it. It'll be staff approval then. You folks should,
We've done something that
well, I think
that
you,
is out, it did,
You can
the
move it.
departure, we will.
you can move it forward. Exactly. Okay. So there is a second. We know the process. It's going to go, you can work with Belkis on this, get stuff to her. As soon as you get it to her, she can, get things moving and we can take a look at it. You'll go down the road.
Can I have one
Yes,
question?
please.
This is just an aside. You mentioned community shelter board. Are they engaged in any way in this project?
Yes, so they're applying for 4 units set aside. They're going to provide subsidy for those 4 units.
Okay. I'll have to-
How many units?
4 units.
4 units. Okay, so you'll understand. Okay, any other questions or comments from this group? Anything from the floor? Yes, would you have a comment?
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to come up? Could you identify, you can go to either one of the podium there is good. Yes. Could you identify yourself? Say again.
Alexis B. Western.
Okay, would you raise your right hand? You swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
This is kind of like, I know it's not the main topic here, but I know you guys said that you cut the number of parking spots significantly. Where will they be parking? Is there like a parking garage nearby that you guys can kind of partner with? Or how's that gonna look?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we have actually found with our projects, we don't actually need a 1-to-1 ratio. So we're not concerned about having one spot for every unit. Having said that, we are exploring different partnerships with parking lots and owners in that area. We've already had preliminary conversations with another owner about some overparking that he has at his property. So we're looking to be able to place additional parking in nearby properties. But we don't have any specific ones in agreed to at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we have a motion. It's on the table. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, would all those who are in favor say aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks very much. And an extension from Trudy. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your assistance.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next case, please.
Okay, this is for 11 West State Street. 11 West State Street is located just west of South High and West State Street. The building formerly held a former Chinese restaurant, and before that was a Burger King, if you remember that building, and is being converted into a multi-tenant space. The applicant is seeking commission approval to remove the existing Chinese restaurant sign and install 5 new signs, which include a 2.5 foot by 36 and a 1/4 foot halo lit channel letter wall sign, which is 28 feet from grade, which is on the top of the building. A 6 by 6 painted extremely illuminated projecting sign, which is 16 feet from grade. A 3.5 by 9 foot LED photo wall sign inside of the western entrance, which is 8 feet 9 inches from grade. And a 1.3 foot by 2.3 foot LED channel letter wall sign, 15 feet from grade, and a 5.5 foot by 10.4 foot vinyl window sign, which is 21.5 feet from grade. And submitted materials include a site plan, elevations and material details. And just to orient you, this is the building here. These are some photos that Adam took. So you see this existing sign is proposed to be removed, and then we'll have the new signs in place. So you can see the building here. So we'll have a new sign up top and then other signs on the building front. And then inside this nook, this is where the faux neon sign will go. I know it's kind of hard to see from some of their elevations. And then these are the materials, so I'll leave it at this and I'll let the applicant speak to it, but you have this top sign, again, this will be removed. This is the other window sign, we have another window sign, wall sign here. Inside here is that faux neon sign, I think it's saying,
Other words are fine. This one.
yeah, this is the projecting sign, which.
Where's that?
That's going to be about right here. So I'll let the applicant speak to their drawings, but after review, the downtown design guidelines recommend that each ground floor tenant space be provided one projected sign and one wall or awning sign per street frontage, and that new signage be proportional in size to the building. The guidelines also recommend that projecting signs have a minimum clearance of 10 feet from grade, and that window signs be transparent and limited to 25% of the total glass area. The proposed graphics are generally consistent with the downtown design guidelines, but staff does recommend that the applicant explore repurposing the existing sign and to lessen the scale of the window sign. Thank you.
Somebody here for the applicant, okay?
Thanks, guys.
Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yeah, Colin Brinkman, Day Night Sign.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and so say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Nobody here representing the owner?
I'm representing the owner, I guess. I'm working with a design firm that's working with the owner of the building directly.
Okay, well, let's move along then.
All right, yeah, so obviously there's kind of a lot going on here. So they're opening, there's, I guess, 5 tenants in there. One's like a nightclub, which is the one on in the little nook there, with the faux neon sign. The blade sign, is actually, I think it's hard to kind of show this on the elevation drawing, but that's gonna go in a similar area as to the Chinese restaurant sign. So it's gonna be on the far, yeah, relatively right there. Yeah, so that's like a restaurant of some sort. So from my understanding is that's the entrance for the restaurant. And then the nightclub's obviously on the west entrance, but I think there's gonna be an elevator in that entrance that's where you can kind of go to the second floor, which I believe is gonna be like a speakeasy type of deal. And then the top floor will be like a co-hatch, where people kind of can go work at this location, from my understanding. And then obviously the top signs identifying the building as the Bonnier building. So yeah, I know there's a lot going on here. Realistically, the most pressing needs at this time, because they're trying to get open by Pride weekend, are the nightclub and the State House, which is the restaurant. So it was really, I know that there's a lot going on. So was really looking to get at least possibly those approved today, with everything else, maybe, some conditional approvals or something like that, or anything we could work with you guys on. But I just know with our lead times, it's getting pretty tight to the wire with Pride Week. So I'm really trying here to get those approved at least, and then maybe work on the other ones if you guys have issues with that. So,
I hate to add to the signage burden, but I don't see any address signs here. If you're trying to get people to find this place,
great point.
you probably
Yeah.
need to have.
We haven't really discussed there's like a face replacement, polycarbonate face right above that west end where the State House is going, the restaurant, the east entrance there. You can kind of see it's behind that tree. Maybe we could do something with that. But I think we were planning on just kind of putting a black panel in there for the time being. But yeah, great. Thanks for bringing that up to me.
I hate to lose the Ho sign. Gives that building character, but I don't know what you do with it.
Yeah, and just with it being multi-tenant, and we're not really sure how great a shape that sign's in. There could be a lot of work that needs to be done to it. We haven't surveyed or anything out there yet, so I'm not totally sure. But yeah, that would be removed, obviously.
Did you say our guidelines allow for one blade sign for each first floor tenant?
Let's need to double check what I read. So pretty specific. Each ground floor tenant space to be provided one projecting sign, one wall or awning sign per street frontage. Each ground floor. tenant
And
space-
one wall or on it.
Yeah, so they can have up to 2 signs
Right.
for each ground floor tenant.
Right, but we
So
don't have any
they're kind of,
guidelines for the skyline side, the cornice signage for the upper floor.
There
Yes.
are specific guidelines for wall signs here, so. There are no specific area requirements, but the size should be proportional to the building to which it is attached. Buildings with multiple tenant spaces should establish a cohesive rhythm appropriate to the building for the placement of wall signs.
Well, we typically have multiple tenant buildings, so it's like a sign somewhere that lists the multiple tenants.
Like a direct.
We don't like put them all over the facade.
I think a risk on this is, it's just, wow, holy smokes, how many, that's not an enormous facade. How many sides can you put on there? And I think, by the way, none of these kind of seem to kind of relate to each other. They're all off on their own.
Right. I mean, I think a big issue with this too is it's an all glass facade.
Yeah.
They want to keep, you know, they want to keep natural light coming into the building and whatnot. So that's kind of where we're limited, where we have to kind of work around. You know, we have the vinyl there. We do have the XC sign on some like aluminum tubing that would attach to the window mullions, but I mean, and they're trying to really get attraction from High Street. So that's like the main reason for the blade sign on the west side of the State House blade sign is that's where most of the pedestrian traffic is. And that's kind of what they're really trying to capture is the pedestrian traffic and the car traffic from High Street. So really the best way we thought we could do that is by doing a blade or projecting sign there.
One thing is that like the Innovation Center, the Pod Innovation Center.
Yeah.
The sign is up high and there are 2 doors, there are 2 entrances to this Bonner building. So
Right.
it's hard if you're a pedestrian to know, unless you're looking at really high, okay, which door do I go into and where exactly is this innovation?
Right, and I understand that's tough, but yeah, from my understanding, we have it on that right side is because that is the entrance door to that. But yeah, I do understand, like, it can be.
Something that might be, I don't know, like maybe something that's on ground level that addresses, that addresses everything that's on one side or that's on another side, and maybe it's a blade sign, or maybe it's something else, because I think that might be confusing.
Yeah, would maybe something like inside those nooks there to each door, would something just a simple like directional sign just says, State House entrance only with, and then below that, use the west entrance for the Pod XC. I think it's Souls or yeah. I'm sorry, I was Susol. Yeah, sorry, I always messed that name up. So yeah, just with with just all the windows and everything like that, this is kind of the route we thought we would have to go. And
Entrances.
Yeah,
right.
Are the 2 entrances, do they have the same address number or are they different? Like in other words, would it be like, let's just say 310A, 310B, or?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. Yeah, there's actually, if you look at the nightclub sign, there is actually an address. I don't know if we can see it in there, but if you zoom in on it,
For the.
you can even zoom in on that. Yeah, there might be an address number on there. I forget if it says on the far right.
Far right.
Yeah, if you go, what is that? It says something, I just think it's 11 West State Street, to be honest. I don't think.
Little lights. This little.
Yeah, I
light
think
there.
the vertical looking panel there does have a number on it. I just not quite
What?
certain if it says 13 or 11.
Once you go in, once you go beyond the door, let's just say on the right side,
Yeah,
and you have 2 levels, you have the XE and then you have the, what is the other one called?
the Pod Innovation, yeah.
What happens inside? Is there an elevator for each side? Is there a stair? How do people get,
it's some space.
once you get beyond that door on the right side, what's happening internally?
Yeah,
From my understanding, there's an elevator there.
Okay.
And that one, or like maybe a staircase to the downstairs, but I'm certain there's an elevator in there. And then from there you could go, okay, floor 2, that's the speakeasy. the ground, like basement floor, that's the nightclub, and then the top floor through the condominium.
You have the signage for everything on the right, maybe at ground level, once you got into that elevator lobby, it could say, you know, pod, what is it, pod, third floor, exit.
Yeah, well, we add that.
Right, and they haven't consulted us at all about any,
Flexibility on the outside, how you could,
yeah,
having something very high that people might have
Right,
to
that would
see.
be the
It's
nice.
just a thought.
okay, yeah, I appreciate it.
That's the last way to work on the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Otto,
I'm only speaking for myself at this point, but I would be looking to potentially table this until the owner can come in and explain the overall vision, functionality of the proposed use of this building. There's been a couple of newspaper articles about it, and it's not very unclear. I mean, there's night uses, there's day uses, there's things like that, which all may be fine. But in coming to us asking for something that is clearly different, clearly some exceptions here, I think it would be in a better position to evaluate this if we understood more about the overall functionality of the building and the plan for all these different tenants that may come in at different times. And, you know, if, I'm just hypothetically, if they said, well, this concept isn't gonna open for another year, you know. do we-
well, no,
that's
they're
not-
gonna open it this year, the first floor spaces, right?
So the main things are the nightclub and the restaurant. They want that open by,
Here's what, from my standpoint,
Fine.
what, you've got 5, 6 different things going on,
yeah,
okay? If you could figure out a way to make those kind of cohesive somehow or another, I don't know, there's a black banded circle and they're all the same size and each thing fits in there. So some way to make it as though you're not doing just 5 separate signs, you know,
okay.
to me.
Oh, I hear you.
And I think if we hear what you're trying to do, that's gonna help us out.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is, I think, I'm hearing from somebody that we may want to, or be able to approve today, the ones you want to get open, and then come back on an overall scheme. It seems to have some kind of coherence to
Some
it.
kind of theme, some kind of design. And
But by the way, you could do this in a way that this thing could be interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a cool
And positive.
blank slate, right?
gotcha. Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of just throw everybody's winging it and throwing up their own thing here.
Right now, it's just such inconsistency in your signage.
Okay.
It's
And
a little confusing.
The giant sign on the top really doesn't do anything for you. I mean, nobody really cares at this point, other than probably that person.
Yeah, he cares.
Right.
That person cares.
Yeah, but I mean, that could be all
Okay, I beg your
subtle
pardon.
somewhere.
You're fine.
Uh, Yeah. but I mean, we-
Does that make sense?
For the-
What do you,
for sign.
if you had to get something today, what do you need to get?
Yeah, it would be the State House Blade sign and that sign right there.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Could you and or the owner agree that then if you come up with this cohesive program,
Right.
you would be willing to tweak those signs so that it would fit into the cohesive program? See what I mean?
Yeah, and like by tweet, like,
I don't know what that means.
yeah,
That's
okay.
that's what the designer has to.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, I think we could, for sure. I wouldn't see why not. You know, I think for especially not the ground floor tenants, you know, I think we could come up with something more cohesive.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sorry about your time situation. I understand it. We
You're fine.
always try to work with
I
that.
know.
However, when somebody comes in and they, you know, just throw it up and say, oh gosh, you know, we're under a gun and we have to have it done, you know, day after tomorrow, that causes a problem for us too on our end.
Oh, I
So,
completely understand. Yeah, some people just don't know how long.
where do we want to go here?
Yeah, I just have some logistical comments.
Yes,
So if the commission approves this Sioux Soul sign today, and then this State House sign today, then I can issue a COA for these 2 signs as designed. If that happens, there aren't any, for lack of a better term, you can't take it back or
Right.
take it back, please, right? So they can go and legally install these designs.
yes.
And the only way we could put in place that they have to tweak these existing designs based on some other, larger cohesive approval later on, would be if you condition that these sign approvals are conditioned on, a cohesive sign plan for the building. But if that happens, then I cannot issue a COA for these two signs to them.
I don't think it has to be
Until
that complicated. I think we can approve these signs, and if they happen to decide they want to change the State House sign, they can come back for a new approval for that sign.
Right, but.
But we can't make a change.
We're not forcing it.
Okay, got it.
I think
Does the State House know that you're using the State House for the name of the restaurant?
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. I'm not the client. I'm not the owner. I mean, I'm not totally quite sure.
Okay, let's figure out where we're going.
I like the Suso sign, and I don't think that it has, I don't think it's conflicting with anything that would be happening with the signs that we have in question. So I think the two that we're approving are good, solid approaches, and I think there can be a plan to work out everything else. That's my feeling. And then, of course, if you feel later on, oh, because of that, we want to change those, that's fine. But I think these two are good.
Well, so what does everybody want to do?
I'll move approval of the State House sign and the nightclub sign,
Okay,
period.
is there a second?
Second,
Okay, other questions or comments? Anything from the audience? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, I'll be opposed. Thank you. Next case, or we're done, aren't we, for cases for today? Is that-
No,
A lot of people in the audience.
Yeah.
we have two more.
we have two more and then a presentation about the downtown Dora.
Oh,
All right, that's why I wanted to have this meeting this month. All right, so this is for 71 and 73 East Gay Street, which includes two buildings built between 1900 and 1920 and was last home to the Tip Top Restaurant. The applicant is seeking conceptual feedback from the commission to remove the existing mansard roof and facade on the north elevation and replace it with a new storefront to accommodate a new commercial space. Submitted materials include existing photos, mansard roof interior photos, aerial view, elevation study, inspirational images, and a conceptual elevation. And just quickly, I think we all know this location on East Gay Street. This mansard roof was put on, I believe, in the 70s. And they just have some, a rough elevation study here. And just a lot of photos of the condition of the existing roof and then their proposed conceptual design. And after review, the conceptual proposal is generally consistent with the downtown design guidelines, but we anticipate a lot of additional details on elevations, materials, and lighting as the proposal develops. So I think they're just looking for, how do we feel about the idea of removing the mansard and doing something with those original facades that are under? Thank you. Do we have the applicant here?
Janet.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, can you please come up?
I'm sorry, did Stuart recuse themselves from this application, or is he just
He made
taking
this problem.
just a little break? Okay.
Okay, then that's fine. Can you introduce yourselves, please, and your affiliation with the project?
My name's Jeff Clavin, Clavin Group, and we're the architectural firm on the project. I have Abby Shaper with me, and she's one of my associates. And then we also had Paul Melucci, who is the owner of the building.
Okay, great, and we just need to swear you in, so if you raise your right hand, do you swear to affirm, or do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay.
Thank you. And so with Belkis, you'll start to, I think you already.
Yeah, if you just want to.
Yeah, so can you start your
presentation? I can advance the slides as.
Now, is it possible for us to tie in our laptop or current information we want to share?
There isn't, I'm sorry. It's typically about the things I've updated.
Yeah.
They can send that to me at least a day or two before the meeting, so I can put it on paper. So I apologize.
No, because we got some imagery we really wanted to share with you, because we've just been a lot of,
Could you email it to us? quickly. If you email it to,
This is conceptual, so the this is conceptual.
yeah, if you just send it to dc@columbus.gov. Well, your email just here, right?
It should be.
And then we can switch to the council next.
So the Mansard's not old enough that we have to call it historic, right?
I'm sorry.
The Mansard's not old enough that we have to call it historic, right?
Well, we went, and that's what we want to show because we went and got some photography of
Oh, it was there?
what's there, and it's it's just interesting.
I never knew there were two buildings there.
Well, what do we have to look at then? Just this?
There's just some existing site photos of the condition of the roof. So this is behind the mansard roof here and what that looks like.
I think,
And then I,
oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I wanted to get to the one picture.
the what?
I wanted to get to the next picture.
Oh, okay. And then this is, inside the building, looking at the mansard roof from the inside, so you can see the condition of it. Do you want to talk about this?
And I think what we did is we just walked up and down the street and, just kind of saw what the context was and what was going on with Gay Street as far as materials, and witnessing a lot of the limestone and, just kind of finishes that classic look that the street has. So we just put that little page together. But I think the one thing that's interesting, if we can go to the next slide. We start to get some inspirational images that we want to talk about with what we were finding, and we'll get into that discussion with some of the imagery that we've created, and we'll show that. On the next slide, can you go to the next one?
That's all I have.
I thought there was one slide early on that had,
Early.
or keep going back.
Oh, yeah, we can go back.
This one.
Yeah.
I think what was really interesting is when we started to discover what was going on with this building behind the mansard, what we learned is this at one point in time was two buildings. And if you can see, the one on the left was a one-story building, and the building on the right, where the staircase is, was basically a two-story building. And so part of where and how we were trying to proceed with the changes that we were looking to make, this came into influence with what we were trying to do. And one of the things that we're hoping for is that we want to get input from the commission, because we would really like to go forward with a demolition permit to get that mansard roof off of there so we can really see what's going on behind there. The other thing that we had found is that on the ground floor, when we started to do our investigation, the one photo on the exterior kind of shows this one right here. So if you look at the right side, that projection, it appears that at one point in time, whatever storefront was there was totally removed. And the whole ground floor, it appears that it was all stick frame construction right now. It just covered up.
So they took off whatever was the old
Whatever was
facade.
there, from what we can discover right now, is just gone. And I think a big part of what we learned with the history of all of this is that about 40 years ago, the reason this building is all covered up the way that it is when we started asking folks that, had been around during that period of time, that it was originally called the Grapevine, and it was a gay club at that point in time. And at that point in time, they did not want any visibility into anything. So that's why the building is so covered up the way that it is. And so after we met with Belkis and her team, and we got into the design guidelines and everything for what, the downtown, was looking for, and opening it up and everything, that's when we started to do the studies with the elevation, and we came up with just, spearheaded look at what this classic design and where and how we could open up, the restaurant. And so that's where this design, came from. Now, since we supply documentation to Belkis, we've done a little bit more that we want to share with you. And basically, we're here to get some input that we're going in the right direction with all of this, and what the Planning Commission for Downtown is, basically receptive to.
Well, just speaking for myself, there's absolutely no reason that front of that thing can't come off fast enough for my taste. But you, obviously to go to the next step, which is what you want to put back in, I mean, we have to see a lot more stuff. I mean,
Well, I think we have some for sharing with you. That's why we want to show this if we can.
And you sent it in February.
and I kind of like the drawing you had there. I'm not sure that the New Orleans look really fits in with Gay Street there, but in some form or another, I mean, I think it could be a very exciting infill space there to work with. Well, that's, yeah.
Yeah, we can start here. So basically what we are looking for right now is that, we're seeing the openness on the ground floor. And then we get pretty much, the division pieces on the ends, and there's, pretty much two vertical pieces that are working for the second story building. We just added some articulation to the caps or the roof parts that would emulate what's happening with the railing on the ground floor where the outside dining area is. And then what you see outlined in the yellow is a projection that we're looking to have a covered canopy and relocating the entrance from the right side of the building basically to the left based on how some floor planning is looking out. As you can see, this whole roof area, how that mansard in the center slide in the middle, once that all goes away, that's what's kind of driving how we're getting into that 1-story, 2-story look on the elevations. The interior that we got into finding out what was going on, that's just a mess on that roof is put together right now. And then again, this was the streetscape, just picking up a lot of what was going on. Then we started to look at, if you look at the photograph up in the lower right, that was some imagery that the owners had found down in Cincinnati as far as the projection of that canopy. So we kind of used that as what we were wanting to have happen at our entry. As we go on, the little bit more study with what we're trying to do. And another thought that we had, the possibility of maybe having that canopy run the distance of the width of the building. And it was one of those things we were thinking that if we did that, because of the weather and everything, and some of the days that we have, the way the sun sets in the west and how it affects the activity on Gay Street, and maybe having some lighting that would light up and add some more interest and more activity level on Gay Street. It was another consideration that we had that we wanted to have a discussion about. The areas that you see dotted, most of the material, about all the material would be mostly storefront. So we want to be able to open up as much of the restaurant from the inside to the outside to our outside patio and dining area. So the material that you're seeing there, we're kind of in question as to whether that really wants to be brick and maybe match Duyamici's brick next door to carry that over. The other thought was, does it maybe want to carry more and integrate that limestone with the contrast of the black metal with what's going on with a lot of the existing product that's on Gay Street right now. And then the canopy would probably be more black metal that would tie into the storefront material. So that's pretty much where and what we're looking at on the exterior, to keep it pretty simple. This is a perspective rendering that would probably explain more what I just discussed. We're thinking that maybe those vertical columns would be more of the limestone matching the vocabulary that's going on in the street and some of our other neighbors. And then with the black metal, that would be all the storefront material that we're looking to use. And then as far as the canopy and how it would project and what is happening and how that would look. And it's just adding some of that articulation with the railing and getting some more of that classic feel is a direction that we wanted to basically propose. And then the next slide was saying, would there be a possibility or consideration if we could run that canopy all the way across? That total dimension, so there's an understanding, is approximately 37 plus or minus feet. And then if we had some lighting underneath it, that we could light up the patio area and everything. And then this was going to be the stretch that we really wanted to propose, was that if we and it was acceptable to having conversations with the planning commission. And, I'm trying to bring something new and inventive into, I just recently was in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it's interesting the development that Central Avenue has been going through. But it was the idea that if we're going to be opening up our second floor, would there be a possibility that we would be able to take that canopy area then and use that as a roof deck to be able to go outside? And it's just one of those things that everybody on the second floor, everybody wants to be up in the air and everybody wants to overlook everything. And if there was a possibility to be able to do this. So we just wanted to offer it as a suggestion. What we're proposing was what we originally showed with the canopy over the entry. The second alternative would be, is it possible to run that canopy the distance of the building, covering our patio, outside dining patio area? And then a third could we push the envelope and take into consideration putting people on top of that? So.
Is your existing building, the front of it, on the sidewalk?
This is another question, Steve. We had met with Jerry Reiser in conversations that we had this conversation about the easement and everything and what's going on. The restaurant next to us basically has columns in the right of way, and he was saying that, there's no way that that would be allowed today. The other question that we have is that our entry door to the right, where it currently exists, swings out into the right of way. The question that we can't find or get resolved is that in this building and in Dewey Michi's building, and I think a few other buildings, our basements extend approximately 4 feet into the right of way. And I'm just assuming from years ago, the way these buildings were serviced, everything was happening and, through stairs and dumbwaiters and everything else. So the question we have is that when we take into consideration, where is the right of way? And is it at the face of the building, or is it the face of how far our foundation is really sitting out and coming into the sidewalk?
The city has a whole set of ordinances about those under sidewalk walls that you can look at.
Oh, okay, I did not know that. Thank you.
And it doesn't affect where the right of way is.
Okay,
Many buildings downtown have those over the years. The city doesn't like them very much. It's hard to drive a fire truck on them and things like that. But you're allowed to keep them as long as they're, in decent shape. But there is I can't tell you the reference, but there's a code reference. I had to look at it recently.
at least I'm aware now that there is one, so thank you.
So I think the question is, where is the right of way and what does the city think about encroaching on it? I mean, I think the idea of the balcony, the idea of the canopy, all of that sounds like a lot of fun. Question is, can you build it?
Yeah.
And it looks a little heavy to me in the elevations, but.
Well, the
You
dimension,
can work
what we have, the dimension that we have from where we have from finished floor, or it appears it's only like 13 inches because it's all the, 2x12s and they're all running or whatever. So we're basing everything off that thick. So that just that you're seeing there is it's approximately probably 14, 16 inches.
Did you say that you found photographs of what it used to be? I thought you said that.
Oh, yeah, but they were from what we could find on that's poking through the window, looking
okay.
in. But as far as the ground floor, from what we can tell, they just built a temporary wall and put plywood on it and painted it.
Are there any of those columns? For example, in one of the pictures, and I think it was the far right-hand side of this building.
Yeah.
You showed a piece of brick wall there with a kind of a limestone horizontal band in that. Is that part of your building? And then how about the wall that's in between, that right there?
Yeah.
Is that your building?
That's not the building. So the building where the brick is right now,
Yeah.
that's the brick face of Dewey Michi.
Adjacent building.
Yes, adjacent to us.
Is
And then
there
the other-
any of the structural, are there any of the structural elements of your building or buildings
Not that I can tell.
along the front? You don't know yet, right?
No.
Okay. What do we want to do?
And I
here?
guess we can,
Yeah.
all I'm doing right now, Steve, is I'm just supposing all of this.
You mean for two?
So what if you tore off the facades there just to see what's underneath? What would you put back? I mean, because you can't put something back really until,
The only thing we could probably do is just do some temporary, no different than what's there. I think the process would be to remove that entire storefront. Now, up where that window, whatever that thing is, right behind it is a window. And from what we've discovered is that on that two-story building, from the inside, it appears that there are 3 vertical windows in there.
okay.
And then there's a brick facade that's above it that I don't.
Oh,
have-
there is.
I don't have any idea.
But you've still got some structure.
I mean, yeah, so go back,
You have to have
if you
something.
go back to the inside pictures again. I thought we captured,
Is there an old building?
right,
40 years ago. It's not
But-
that old.
Yeah, there should.
but
be
it looks
photographs.
like somehow there's also a brick facing up on that second floor, which I have no idea what's supporting that right now.
Habit
What are your floors made out of up there? Are they frame floor? wood
They're all
floor?
framed, but yeah.
would.
Okay, what do we want to do today? I mean, comments from,
Well, I think that-
you're coming here for a conceptual review, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of permit's necessary to tear that thing off, but I think, I don't have any problem removing all that stuff so that they can investigate and see what's underneath it. Now, the risk there is that they do that and the project stops or something. So I guess that we would condition it on maintaining the structural integrity of the building and keeping the weather out
And,
somehow.
and the integrity of the existing facade as well.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't see how you can figure out what to do about it until you can see what's underneath.
You can't tear some of that wood framing off where the sign is and so on?
Frankly, Steve, it would scare me, because like I said, I don't know. what's
Don't
under
stand
it.
up there.
And once we got into it, and the pictures that we took, when I opened up the window to get inside, how that mansard is structured,
Yeah.
I have no idea who
Yeah.
built that, but frankly, it scares me to even look at that, and
Yeah.
what I'm fearful of is, when you get in a renovation like that.
Yeah.
Once we open it up,
Yeah.
it scares me what we're gonna uncover.
Well, we did the same thing with the old Madison's building. You know,
Had to start tearing stuff off.
they had to tear a bunch of stuff off of it to see what was underneath it.
Does he need a demolition permit to tear this thing off the
I
front?
believe
You
so.
must need some kind of permit.
Yeah, I'm sure we need
Yeah.
a demolition permit.
I believe it.
I
definitely
I don't have, if you would want that, I wouldn't necessarily have, with what we're dealing with here. I mean, we're not talking about demolishing.
Right.
We're taking the facade off, which to my mind has no value whatsoever. Does anybody have any other thought on that one?
No, I think that's the only way he can.
Could we, is there a reason why we wouldn't just issue what would you need,
It would be a specific demolition COA, but in your motion, you would say to approve the demolition of these specific items on, the condition
Yeah.
that, structural integrity be maintained and
Yeah.
safety and all of that. So
Yeah.
I'll read like.
does anybody want to make a motion to that effect? Or what's everybody want to
We
do?
got a voter that's stepping away for a second, so
I'll be back.
I think what 4 of us can vote on that if we want to. Anybody want to make a motion on that, Otto? Are you in favor of doing that if you're not?
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I am too. I can't make a motion, but Jan will have to be.
So motion to have the demolition permit to demo the mansard roof.
And the first floor facade area.
Yes, and the first floor
Only.
area for investigative purposes, but then, to maintain the structural integrity and just, I guess, also weatherproofing as well.
And you're gonna have to close the building back up, I mean, assumably.
With what we are doing, what we're showing.
Yeah.
The majority of the storefront, or the majority of the facade is gonna be replaced with storefront.
Okay.
So we're gonna be working with obviously a contractor base to do most of that. The balance of what's left is pretty much gonna be what materials covering those columns. And,
Yeah.
I would propose either the brick or the limestone, and then beyond all that is whatever the fascia material is gonna be for the canopy. And then there's that little bit of articulation that we have.
Okay, so that is a question. Now conceptually, we haven't seen it. So does anybody have a problem with that kind of thing?
With what?
With what he's proposing to put back conceptually?
Conceptually, I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about in Cincinnati, because I've been there, and it really activates the area. But also, this is something that's very similar that you see in Charleston, and around the south, as far as those balconies that are above storefronts or restaurants. So thinking of what is happening along Gay Street, particularly around the new idea about that mile or boulevard, I think that this will be really a very great attraction from an architectural standpoint where people would want to go.
I agree. I like it very much too. I had just a couple of suggestions as you develop it. I think if you have the balcony going across, this isn't an issue, but I think if you don't, I would think about how you're treating the storefront on the first floor versus the second, where it looks like you're treating it exactly the same. And many times, especially even with, the photographs that you showed for inspiration, the first floor is a little different from the second floor. Sometimes the second floor, the windows are slightly smaller, or maybe the openings of the first floor where the mullions are larger. So I would just study that, like how do you still keep that openness, but keep that first floor more grounded and really open in that second floor.
Yes. And I think,
Like that, and then also study the balcony. If you are able to do that, it does look a little heavy, but how do you make that work well with the facade? But I think conceptually it's wonderful.
I think what you're hearing is conceptually, we think it looks good, it looks great. We'd be very much in favor of seeing something like this done. That's not to say we're approving any details here. What I would say for you, one of the very first things you need to do is go talk to the city about what you can do about being out over that sidewalk. And that's not something that we can approve, okay?
Right.
All we do is design approval. And then if they say no, then it's not. But you need to have that conversation if you even think you want to pursue that at all, sooner rather than later. Because my guess is that's a very clean line along Gay Street, and you are on the property line right there. Okay, so anything that goes over that has got to go through the city, the sidewalk cuts.
Jerry Reiser.
I'd just like to repeat the motion one more time, just to make sure I.
So wait a minute, so we got two things we're doing here. Number one is conceptual, which I think you've heard about. And then number two, we've got this motion, if you want us to do this today, to allow you to tear down the old facade on the front of the building. Would you like that?
Can I address that? I'm gonna let the owner respond to that.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Coleman Bullshit.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So I do. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Well, this is not one business as it is right now, still operating. So we're trying to minimize the time that will be closed for this whole project. So we are okay with if we can get a demolition permit. What we wanted to hear from you guys is if we can somehow get the design work. Is this something that we can simultaneously do with the contractors to work on the storefront? So we can minimize the time of the business being closed or?
Well, if you're saying, do you want us to approve something, you gotta bring it in and say what you want us to approve.
Yeah, we can't approve.
Conceptually, you came in conceptually. Conceptually, what you're hearing is, yes, we like it.
Okay, and that's what we were looking for.
Yeah.
I think our timing, basically, I think our timing could work really well. If we go in, get the demolition permit, and I think the next hearing is April 23rd. If we could come in for approval at that time and then bring in the checklist of the materials and everything else and have, the renderings and everything done, the timing could work really well because it's going to take, we know weeks before material and all that other stuff could come in. If we're okay conceptually that, and that's what we wanted to know, are we going with the right direction that's acceptable to the commission? Sure. And if we are, That's what we wanted to know. And now we could go to the city, we'll get a demolition permit. While we're going through that process, it's going to take some time to do all of that. That'll give us time to come back for the 23rd meeting and look for a final approval based on bringing in the materials and everything you're looking for.
So do you want a permit to be able to demolish the facade?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so that's the motion that we have. Why don't you read that, Velka, so we
Yeah,
know what we're voting on?
The motion is to approve the demolition of the mansard roof and exterior storefront materials on the condition that the structural integrity of the building and weatherproofing be maintained for staff review. So when they submit their demolition plans, I would look for notes about, weatherproofing and that structural integrity.
In other words, what covers the opening once this stuff's been removed?
Correct.
Right, good.
I'd call it selective demolition.
Selective, okay.
If that's okay with whoever made that.
That's fine. Okay, so do we have let's see, the motion was from Jana, is that right?
Yes.
And is there a second then?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Okay. Anything else from the audience then? Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so where we are today is you can take that facade off there, see what's underneath. You got to close it back up again. And then conceptually, a lot of ideas out there, part of which has to do with what you are actually physically able to do.
Okay.
Right,
Okay, good. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thank you.
That'll be a great improvement on that little stretch of sidewalk.
Well, it's such an iconic feature as it is, so. it should be fun. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so this is our last application for the day before the DORA presentation for 101 North Washington Avenue, which is located at the corner of East Gay Street and North Washington Avenue. So this is just north of the Museum of Art's parking lot. You can picture that spot. So this is on the Columbus College of Art and Designs campus, just north of the Museum of Art. Battelle Hall was originally built in the 1940s as a car dealership and was retrofitted into art and design studios in the 1970s. Today, the applicant is seeking conceptual feedback for a proposal to renovate the building and add a new addition to establish the Center for Creative Collaboration. The proposed work for Battelle Hall includes renovating the interior of the existing two-story structure, improving facility access, restoring original primary window openings on the north and south facade, and making minor repairs to the exterior, to the existing exterior plaster. The new two-story addition will include vertical architectural fins, new exterior finishes, and mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection upgrades that will carry into the existing building. The existing parking lot entry to the south of Battelle Hall will be converted into gardens, stepped seating, plaza space, and a lawn with native plantings. Submitted materials include historical site photos from the development department, context images, site plan, massing, landscape plans, renderings, floor plans, and elevations. And I'll yield the presentation to the applicant, but these are just some site visit photos that we did. So you can see the existing parking lot. So all of this will become green space and gathering space. You can see the existing building here. There used to be windows here, but they infilled those in the 70s. And just looking down the street, this is the parking lot for the art museum. So you can kind of get a feel for that. And then after review, the downtown design guidelines state that downtown's built environment continue to be enhanced and energized with new buildings and additions to existing structures that promote good design, long-lasting building construction materials, and attention to detail, especially at the street level. The guidelines encourage adaptive reuse of existing buildings and recommend that new construction be influenced by the pattern of nearby contributing buildings. They also recommend high-quality materials, ground floor transparency, lighting that minimizes upspill, I should say, and the inclusion of landscaping and plaza space. And thus, the proposal is consistent with the recommendations of the downtown design. Thank you.
Very good. Who's here for the applicants, please? Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Hi, I'm Danielle Moody. I represent CCAD's architect AECOM.
I'm Brian Kinzelman, Senior Principal with MKSK
If
Landscape.
you raise your right hands, do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so say I do?
I do.
Thank you. Okay,
I did just want to add that the owner is listening in. She was unable to attend due to the late shift in the schedule.
thank you.
All right, Marcus, if we could just kind of run through these slides. So this is a site plan. Buckus kindly introduced us to this. This is located on the far east side of CCAD's campus. Battelle Hall is situated immediately north of the museum on Gay Street, and this property is at Gay and Washington. So you can see, similar to what Buckus shared with the group, the large surface parking lot at the corner there, and Battelle Hall just to the north of that. Some existing photos of the space, as well as a historical photo that show the original conditions of the building, where there was a significant amount of exterior glazing that was infilled that we're proposing to open back up to allow natural light into the student spaces. Just overall, this is a significant project for CCAD. This was came out of their 2019 framework plan, so it's been in the making for several years now. The real intent is to provide student resources that are collaborative across campus while also promoting the student well-being, inclusion, and diversity.
Now for the site plan. As many of you know, this is a somewhat unremarkable corner of our campus right now, and it's a great opportunity to provide some real meaningful program. The parking lot to the north along Long Street is under separate project, and you'll see that sometime in the future, but you can see the red line that demarks this project limit. Battelle Hall, what the label is the existing structure. The addition stretching to the south is the new construction, and Kenny Hall exists to the west. There's existing utility core in the front of Kenny Hall, if you will, becomes the front yard of both of these buildings. We'll show you how we're addressing that. We're also providing for some connection between Kenny and Battelle, which right now is occupied by utility and infrastructure for the current Battelle Hall, to get connection to the parking lot, also out to Long Street and into the core of the campus. This is that utility core I mentioned next to Kenny Hall. This is a view looking north. It's a transformer and switchgear. You can also see at the front of this screen fencing, we've got a slide gate proposed so that there is periodic access to that utility core. Also, there's a need for access to the landing that is against Kenny Hall, which right now serves as a loading dock, but it's only used periodically. So from time to time, we will have vehicles that access this, but we did not want to draw attention to it. So we're taking advantage of the screening opportunity to create this learning stair. There's also pedestrian stairway up to that landing level, and then accessible access into Kenny Hall with gathering space at the base of that ramping. This is the connective tissue from Gay Street. This is looking south to Gay Street. To the north, Long Street. Behind this view, there will be a green screen to cordon off some of the existing utilities of Kenny Hall, but a great opportunity for de facto gathering space with a south exposure, student activity, and faculty as well. This is the front of the building along Gay Street. You can see that this is the new addition on the left side of this image. We're providing limited hardscape, I'll say, with lawn panel as well for outdoor gathering, maybe the events or exhibitions that will take advantage of the front of the building. It's a perspective view of that as well. This is the extent of the mown lawn, if you will. The rest of this is going to be indigenous and native plantings, and I'll show more of that. In the inside corner of the existing Battelle and the addition is this makerspace patio. It's student, faculty, staff gathering space all the time, but an opportunity for bringing the interior making of art out to the outside. It's always been part and parcel of the framework plan to announce what we do inside of these buildings and to bring the creative thought out to the community. This is a very meaningful site and corner of the campus. So we think it would be very exciting to have display of static art and also collaboration space for students and faculty outdoors. This is the diagonal walk that cuts through that green space to allow for that, dare I say, the cut through of pedestrian traffic, Gay Street to Washington. Off to the left of this image is the Art Museum, as you all know. There's also this green panel to the left of this image will be our stormwater management. So we're not burying stormwater. We're going to be utilizing this landscape, a high performance landscape, as they say, to store and filter our stormwater on grade. And this will be vegetated with indigenous plants and grasses.
I had a question about that stormwater.
Yes,
where
ma'am.
you have the indigenous plants. Is that something where you could not cut a small pathway through it? It would all have to be, you know, in other words, it would all have to be an area that people cannot walk through.
As you can see, Jana, this diagonal path leading to the front door is the main entrance into the new addition. There's also another diagonal path, if you will, that's further to the right of this upper image that does in fact cut through the middle of what is a detention basin, a dry basin. So we're providing for what you just mentioned.
Okay, so that's over there. I actually see it there.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see it on the original.
But it'll be a dish, if you will, filled with plant material with a causeway walkway through it.
Okay.
So during rainstorms, that will fill with water, and over a series of hours, that drains out and that will dry itself.
I also had a question. When you were talking about the loading dock area for Kinney Hall, I wasn't really sure. So you're saying that right where the cursor was, that's something that won't be used by students. That's just going to be really like a back door for utilities or for delivery.
Kenny Hall.
Yes, that's correct. That's the location of the existing transformer and gas meter serving Kinney Hall. So we're kind of screening off that area. CCAD will have access to that space occasionally for loading and unloading of materials, et cetera, but that will be fully screened off from student use.
And that ramp that's going up, that's also going to be screened off?
No, the ramp is to provide ADA access to the adjacent Kinney Hall.
Okay, so if you are feeling the ADA access, you're going into the Kinney Hall through which door?
It's at the corner, yeah, right where the mouse is there, the corner tucked in
And
there.
I'm wondering, I know you have the HV, you have the mechanical screened. And I'm wondering, because you've created such a beautiful environment, I'm wondering if there's any room to somehow move that screen back a little bit and put some plantings in front of it, because everything is so thoughtfully done. And there, you know, you just have that, screen and nothing to really soften it. If that's something you wanted to look at.
Jana, that's not to be a chain link fence screen. That's going to be a piece of the architecture. I wish there were more
Is that
room.
what you were talking about?
It is going to be an articulated screen fence.
Okay.
And as will the green fence that goes down between Kenny and Mattel Hall. So there is very limited space there. As we all know, on campus design, there is no back of house. The utilities and services always front and center, and we deal with it. We're sitting in one such building. So we're looking to screen that from the casual view into that utility court, but not encase it. Don't want to draw any more attention to it than we have to.
Great. So we'll move on a little bit more with the building. As you can see, the building's split into two parts, the existing Battelle Hall, which sits further to the north, and then the new addition. As mentioned, the 2019 framework plan kind of established this project. At the time, this building was slated for a replacement, but after further investigative testing, it was determined that the structural integrity of the building was sound, so we've chose to renovate it and kind of capture some of that embodied carbon. The addition itself is split into two parts. The first floor really being a very glassy, transparent area that is intended to connect the interior and exterior. And the majority of the interior program on the first floor is housing all of the creating and making space. As you move to the second floor, that houses all of the collaboration space, so space for student recharge as well as classrooms, etc. This is just an aerial view kind of showing that connection of the interior and exterior. As you can see here, the lower portion of the facade, although the whole addition is very light and airy, there's wider mullion spacing, really enhancing that connectivity between the interior and the exterior and promoting the collaboration of making from inside to outside. And then as you move up, the mullion spacing gets a little bit tighter. We've introduced some vertical fins to address heat gain and glare. And we're also exploring opportunities for frit on the glass at both stories to enhance the performance of that facade. And again, this is just another view where you can see some of the primary student recharge spaces and collaboration spaces on the upper level. And these are the existing, these are the renderings showing the existing and the new. As you can see on the existing south elevation, those upper windows are being reopened. They were infilled in the 1970s, and so those are going to be reopened to introduce natural light into those classroom and learning spaces for the students. And it'll be a simulated divided light to kind of reflect the historic nature of those factory style windows.
What will the exterior of that building be then? Kind of the same thing?
The exterior of the existing Battelle Hall will remain the existing plaster. It'll be restored and repainted.
The picture we saw before showed it was brick with, and you go back to the brick then, or?
No, the brick was determined to be cost prohibitive due to the project to restore that. We did some destructive testing to uncover some of that area, and there's some significant degradation of the brick itself. Yeah, it's a plaster facade. Yeah, so the intent is to restore and repair that plaster and repaint it, kind of serving as a blank canvas that'll allow the addition to highlight that really sense of transparency.
So, other than that you're taking away our extra parking when the art museum is busy, I think renovating this existing building is very commendable. I think putting a new glass back is terrific. I think the addition looks really like a lot of fun. Fundamental question is, did you look at the possibility of putting the addition on Washington as opposed to putting it inboard and creating more, holding the edge of Washington and all? I'm just wondering if that's something you looked at.
We did explore that. At one point in time, there was a connection, a physical connection between Battelle and Kinney Hall that we were exploring, which pushed the addition to the western side of the lot. The other aspect here is we really wanted to promote this not only being a campus outdoor area, but really an amenity for the downtown space. So trying to promote that outward facing while also having some inward facing kind of pocket park areas.
Bob, one of the parts of that answer is this green space that you see that's at the connection of these two buildings is commensurate with the green space that leads up to the face of the art museum. We've got that long panel along Washington.
Right, that's what I was
going
going
to
to
continue that across the street.
Will that sidewalk that you have there kind of connect with that sidewalk at
Yes.
the art museum?
Yes,
Oh,
we're not encouraging our students to cross right there. There is a crosswalk up at the corner of
Yeah,
Gay Street, for the record, at the corner of Washington and Gay Street.
I like that element of it too, that it connects with.
What I really like about it is the additional green space because it gives it more of a campus feel. My son went to CCAD years ago, and there really wasn't a campus feel there. It was just very pedestrian and concrete. And this gives, I think it's an incentive for students to come to and to apply. But as I said, I really love the gathering space and the landscaping. I think it just adds what is needed for that campus feel.
It's a
I think one thing that could be interesting, I know here we go, talking expanding your scope again, but what could be really interesting, just to kind of follow through with what Trudy's saying, is if some element of something, I don't know, it might be street trees or something, could continue west of Kinney Hall, in other words, because what you don't want to do, I mean, if I look at this and I spend some time over at the art museum these days. But if you go kind of westbound on Gay Street, that doesn't remind me of this. If somehow or another it could, just, and maybe that, I know that's not what you guys are charged with here. And you don't want to, but sometime over time, if that could happen, and even in, Canzoni Hall or whatever, that stretch of, it'd be fun if that whole strip of Gay Street there could kind of
Yeah.
fit together, you know what I mean?
Steve,
So-
it's not our charge on this project, but it has been our charge on previous projects. That was the design of Gay Street. And Gay Street, as you can see, in
Which
this
is
image,
fantastic.
we didn't showcase it necessarily in these renderings, but that was meant to tie the center of CCAD's campus together as a
Right.
central space, happens to be a public street, but it's a central space from Grant to Washington.
Yeah.
So you can see in this rendering, again, not very well articulated because we want to concentrate on the building and the landscape of the chevron benches, street tree plantings, all the specialty pavement, walks and street, very intentionally from Washington all the way down to Grant. So that streetscape, which is brand new, it's only 5 years old, 6 years old, we in no way want to damage or contradict that. So we're additive to that street, but
Okay.
that's my explanation for how we're trying to tie the campus together through that public right of way.
Yeah.
I wonder if when you come back, you could show us more of that context.
Happy
I
to.
mean, I know your project is specific
Yeah.
to this, but it's part of something that museum and the church and CCAD have been working together on for so many years. And this is like the last piece in a way. Be great to see how that fits in more specifically with the museum and the adjacent and the rest of CCAD.
We'd be happy to.
Yep,
Did you have something?
no, I'm just gonna ask for more comments. Go ahead.
A couple of things. I mean, I love the project. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I just had, because I know this is conceptual, so I'll just throw out some things. I'm wondering if you've ever considered on the addition, putting some type of a balcony, like a long thin balcony or something. So, because I know you said part of that is wellness up there. And students, I think, recharging. I wasn't sure if you meant recharging their equipment or just mentally recharging or both. But I thought that maybe that's another option for them to be outdoors, to be engaged with what's happening outside. And I didn't know if that was something that you felt would work with your programming or wouldn't.
Bill, because if you go a couple more slides there to the interior floor plans, the first floor plan. So on the addition on the west-hand side, you can see there's doors kind of between the new addition and the existing Battelle Hall. And those take you to that, what we're calling pocket park that lives in there. So the intent is that we're creating that indoor-outdoor connection on the first floor. There is a small recharge nook just to the south of the elevator there. And by recharge, to your question, we do mean both physically recharging devices and recharging as an individual. As you all probably are aware, CCAD has a very large commuter campus. So allowing students who don't live on campus a place to be able to sit down between classes that's somewhere other than their car. So that indoor-outdoor connection is really celebrated on the first floor here, allowing access to that little park area between the two buildings.
Okay. And then on Washington, have you thought about, I mean, I know that, of course, you're going to have a beautiful view of the outdoor space in Washington, but beyond that, where the building is, have you thought of anything that would make that space feel unique in terms of maybe part of that wall is painted red or something about it that it looks like a dynamic part of your design as well?
All I can say about that, Jim, one thing, great idea. Two, we've got very little right of way there. The building is right on the edge of the sidewalk. So that connecting walkway from south to north is, there's not much there. Could something happen on that east facade? I'll leave that to my colleagues.
It just visually, not even building anything out. And then the last question is, because of your design concept, I'm just curious, do you see, you have the existing 1940 building, and then you have the new building, and do you see it looks like you want to express both, like, okay, this 1940 building, we want to express it as what it was, and then we have the new addition. So do you see them both as important to each other, or do you see the 1940 building more of as a backdrop for the new addition? It's trying to understand the concept, what your goals are.
Yeah, I think there's, equal importance between the two structures. It's kind of celebrating that history, but then showing the expansion, which I think is reflective of CCAD's growth. So we're really trying to promote that sense of connection both between the interior and the exterior. As you look at the interior programming of the building, the intent is to, other than noticing the different skin treatments, really feel like the space is a continued space and it flows freely from the new addition to the existing structure.
What is that actually little connector? We can't see that in there between the two. That would be between the old building and the new. Up, see where there's an indentation there? No,
Is that another little building?
the upper right hand, right in there, yes. What is that, just for curiosity's sake? I mean, is that glass, is it solid, is it metal?
It's solid. There are doors there that allow access to the exterior from either side.
Will that be a masonry,
We're still exploring what the treatment is there.
just curious?
Yeah.
Hey, I think it looks great. Any other comments, Otto?
No. Awesome.
Yeah, it's good, it's fun, great. I like your little pond area there too, so.
That's Jeff, right?
On the surface parking lot.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yes. I'm parking at the museum. You know what? They just bought that other lot, so that's good
You
too.
have plenty of surface parking in downtown.
Well, for the moment.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, good. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. What's your timing on this, by the way? Do you move along or?
We are cost estimating, our construction partner is cost estimating the DD package, which this is reflective of. CDs will take us into early July, and the intent is to start construction in the fall.
So we'll see you later on, probably this year then, just
Yes, for sure.
end of the summer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's next?
So now we'll do the staff approved application, we'll be motioning on those, and then we'll have a 5-minute presentation on the downtown Flora.
Thank you. Okay. Can I have a motion on the approval for the staff approvals, please?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any questions from fellows? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I don't think we have to swear in this person, do we?
They're not providing testimony.
Right,
so
I think so. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let me just signal to advance slides.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you again. Good morning. I know it's been a long morning. We're grateful for the opportunity to share a little bit about the proposed Center City DORA that we're working on. So the application for the DORA was submitted earlier this month. We've been working with our partners at the city through the Department of Development. My colleague Hannah Reed is here from the city representing that department. And so I'm going to start out with just a little bit of background on DORAs, and then I'll go into what we've proposed for this particular.
Could you just tell us your name Jen, before? Oh, is that what you're doing? Okay, sorry. Just so
Yeah,
we know.
thank you. Megan Hurley, I'm with Downtown Columbus, Inc.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a little bit about DORAs. I'm sure we're all probably pretty familiar with what a DORA is, but it stands for a designated outdoor refreshment area. It's essentially a area that is where open containers are permitted for adults 21 and up. So the city of Columbus, because it's a municipality of more than 50,000 residents, is allowed up to 6 total DORAs within the city limits. That is per the Ohio Revised Code. Next slide, please. So who's involved? So obviously I'm with Downtown Columbus, Inc. We've partnered on this initiative with the Franklinton Board of Trade and the Capitol Crossroads Special Improvement District. A little bit of background here is something that we heard from the community through the 2022 Downtown Strategic Plan is that they really wanted more connectivity between downtown assets. We have such amazing cultural institutions and bars and restaurants, and people wanted to feel that sort of vibrancy between those activities. And so what we've learned is that from other communities across the state and across the country is that doors are a really powerful tool to help achieve that sort of activation in those areas that may be considered a dead zone. The background on the collaboration is that Franklin Pin had expressed interest in Adora around the same time that we and our SID partners had. And so when we expressed that to the city, they thought it would be a great idea for us to work together on a singular larger DORA area so that we would be using the second. So the Arena District DORA already exists. This would be the second DORA out of 6 total. So if this DORA were to get approved, there would be 4 remaining across the entire city of Columbus. Just a little bit of background on the purpose of Adora. I shared a little bit, but what we're really looking to achieve here is that connectivity, obviously greater activation, sort of more pedestrian traffic in our downtown corridors and across the riverfront as well. What we've also seen is that it's a really powerful economic development tool. So businesses tend to want to locate within Adora versus not because they see the value in that increased traffic that they might get through the program. So our community engagement process, we started this back in late summer, early fall. We've met with downtown residents, we've met with property owners, we've presented to all of our respective boards. We held a public meeting back in January, and we have a public hearing coming up as part of the application process on April 10th. We also did a survey. So we surveyed the public. We also surveyed business owners in downtown, and we wanted to hear their feedback and how they felt about establishing Adora downtown. Overwhelmingly, the response was really positive. We had more than 80% who were supportive of the Adora. One little nuance that I'll share is anyone who had put a comment in that they had experienced Adora in another community felt really strongly positively. So that sort of experience, bringing that to this, those people felt really good about the program. So now we can talk a little bit about this particular proposal. So what's on the screen now is the map of the proposed DORA, and it also shows the operating hours. What you can also see is like the assets, if you go back just really quickly, Lucas, thank you. All the dots represent permit holders that are within the boundary. So these are folks who have a qualified liquor permit that would allow them to potentially participate in the DORA. That's not to say that every single one of them would, but just so that we can understand where those clusters of activity currently exist that could benefit from the DORA. And one other thing I'll just mention on the schedule is one thing that we heard in talking to other communities with DORAs that they strongly recommended to us was the consistency in the daily schedule. So from a messaging standpoint, as well as from a user standpoint, having the same daily hours made it a lot easier for the participating businesses, as well as for patrons to understand what are the rules, when is this in effect, when is it not. So what's on the screen now is representative of current and existing safety and security coverages. And so we've been working hand in hand with the Department of Public Safety as well as the Columbus Division of Police, just to talk through, our research with other DORAs and if there's been any safety concerns and how we would address them, things to look for. But what we've learned is that DORAs do not increase crime incidents whatsoever. We haven't seen any evidence of that, but we do want to make sure that safety is a top priority and make sure that we felt like we had the adequate coverage across the proposed boundary. And so what you can see here is in addition to the Columbus Division of Police, these are private and special improvement district security coverages, as well as the schedules you can see there, so that we feel like when the DORA would be operational daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., there would be added security in pretty much every area of the boundary. Now, this is just a kind of a close-up of what you saw before. These are the permit holders. There's 80 currently that could participate. We don't anticipate all of them will, but this is a mix of bars, restaurants, venues, and sort of those specialty businesses that could hold a liquor permit. So this is just representative of that. We know signage is super important. For this door to be successful, we have to be able to display the rules and where the boundary is. So this map shows a first proposal for where we would have signage displayed, and all of the red dots along the boundary is essentially having signage that says no alcohol past this point at every single intersection of a street or an alley where there could be a pedestrian potentially crossing the street with an open container. So we want to be really thorough there. We're working with the Department of Public Service on this plan to make sure that they feel good. The signs, if you go to the next slide, you can see examples of designs. We would plan to have these signs affixed to existing public infrastructure, so a traffic light or parking sign, something like that. And so we're working with Public Service on getting the approval for the exact items for which these can be attached to.
While you're talking about that, just real quick, if I could interrupt for a
Sure.
second.
No problem.
It looked to me on the map, and I couldn't tell for sure because you don't have it outlined, but it looks like you abut the
Arena District.
Arena District.
We do not, so it's close.
Really?
There's
So literally
there's a
there's-
gap in between, and there's a
Is that
reason
good or
for
bad?
that. Yeah, so unfortunately, the way doors are legislated by the state, you cannot take, if you have a container that's for the Center City Dora, you cannot cross into the Arena District Dora. They're separate
Okay.
liquor legislated
Yeah.
differently. And so we wanted
There's
to
what?
have a gap.
Wire, razor wire.
So you're walking down Silent Mile, you have to dump your thing out and go.
I mean, doesn't it go?
We gotta buy another mirror on the, like 150
Yeah.
down there. Yeah.
We had those conversations, we explored it. We felt really strongly that we wanted to have this activated for this summer with some of the new amenities downtown that we have coming online. And so we'll continue to explore in the future what makes the most sense. But for right now, we felt like this was going to be our best opportunity and can continue to have those conversations in the future.
Wouldn't make sense to delete the Arena District door and then create one.
That's what I would.
It's separate.
Yeah,
We had
back-
started to have some dialogue around that, but there's a lot of complications because the Arena District door is so specific to game days and concerts that theirs is legislated very specific to that. And so for us to work through all of the things that would need to change on their side, it would have dragged out the process much longer. And
That
so
door there was some controversy around it, particularly for the neighbors and the residents in the area, that they even changed the boundaries, particularly to go across the street
Down
to,
along High Street, or,
no, to go across, let's say,
with McPherson.
Spring and Long to go over to the Silent Mile. They did not want, residents did not want people to be able to take their containers and go across the street
Oh.
there.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
council changed the boundary.
yeah, so we're just looking for, we're just asking questions. So
Yes, yeah, and great questions. And we've been thinking about them too. And I think for
It sounds like the happening.
success for this year, we think this is probably our best bet, but we're open to continuing those conversations.
Are you drawing a boundary around the Supreme Court property?
We're not, technically, the DORA only applies to public right of way. So like the open containers, you really can only be walking on sidewalks, crossing crosswalks, or in like a public park space. So like if you're on the State House lawn, you technically probably shouldn't be on the grass anyways, but you definitely shouldn't be stepping onto the property with a container.
Well, I noticed in your map, the State House was treated differently than the Supreme Court.
That's because of security.
Pardon?
That's because of their own security. Is that what you're looking at?
Well, I was looking at that white square around the Supreme Court property that isn't around the stadiums.
Yeah, but that's in the Dora area.
It is, so that blue sort of coverage is for the Capitol Crossroads security ambassadors. So that's representative of the patrol areas
I
where,
understand.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So just quickly, I wanted to touch on, I've mentioned we've done a lot of research. We've looked at there's obviously a lot of suburban communities in Columbus that have DORAs, but we didn't feel like they were the right comparison for us because this is such a large area. So we've looked at Dayton, who about a year ago recently did their own large DORA district in their downtown, and they've had really great success. And we were really interested to understand the safety aspect, and they were very clear that they did not have any safety issues or concerns, and they were really happy with how it had been executed. Another city that we looked at was Raleigh. And so we've had some really great conversations and learnings from them of how to implement this, but in a really successful way.
I'm curious, it looks like the Dora on Main Street, that's where it, on the south border, that's where it terminates. So does that terminate on the north side of Main Street at the end of the park, or does that include the whole of Main Street?
Do you mind going back to the map so we can point out exactly where you're?
Janie, you can't take your drink from the park to your house.
So your point at the bottom portion of the map, you mean?
There was another map that showed Main Street. It was another right there. And so I'm just curious where it's Main Street, right by, the Cellular Mile, if, because I live on the south side of Main Street, if that means that where the residences are.
Miranova, like that building area.
Yeah, and Waterford, if we're protected from it, is the fact that people aren't coming over on that street with open containers, and it's just up to the park.
It is. And so the way the signage map at least currently exists would be abutting to where the bridge begins. So you could cross the bridge to get past Bicentennial Park, but we can also have it so it's only on one side of the sidewalk with signage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know where the bridge is, and so you're crossing over the bridge, but once you cross over the bridge on that south side, if you're walking on Main Street, that is also Dora, or it's only on the park side?
It currently is. That is something that could be easily adjusted with signage just to deter people from walking on a particular side if there's pushback from noise or anything like that. So yes, I think the short answer is yes, that can certainly be accounted for.
Okay.
This just outlines the timeline for the application. So as I mentioned, the formal application was submitted to the city clerk's office earlier this month. We have the public hearing scheduled for April 10th. We're hoping that if all goes smoothly, that this will get in front of city council at the end of April or early May, which would allow for hopefully city council's approval and then followed by the state of Ohio's approval.
Who has to approve it at the state? The liquor department.
So all that in mind, we're hopeful that we can have this ready to launch as soon as Memorial Day weekend if all of the approval timelines go as planned. We're continuing to move on some of these things like signage and all of that as we go.
And you said this is the, what number one?
This would be number 2.
Second, okay.
Out of up to 6 total.
Is there any opposition?
We have had great support so far from all of the community engagement that we've done. There's been, reasonable questions and concerns people have around safety and, people driving and not paying attention. And so just wanting to feel like they're being heard from that sense. But from all the research that we've done, doors really are a great amenity to a community. And I think from supporting downtown businesses and the residents, as well as the visitor economy, I think this is a really great way that we can just kind of add to a lot of the momentum that we have downtown.
Great.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Anything else from anybody? Thank you. Okay. What else do we have?
That is all. So if we stand adjourned, we can.
Good. Thank you, everybody, for the flexibility. I was, as it turned out, I was able to get back, but I didn't know if I would have. So I'll get back late for Mondays. Good. Got it done. Thanks.
Thank you.